Hello everyone, you are about to hear a brief summary of the movie Death Sentence. Enjoy watching. Nick is a manager of a large company and a happy family man. At home, his wife Helen and two teenage sons, Brandon and Lucas, are waiting for him. Elder Brandon is a talented athlete. His father is very proud of him. Brandon is considering moving to Canada and dedicating his life to hockey. On the way home, Nick had to stop to refuel the car, and the boy ran into the store to buy a milkshake. Saties fără zi, sărei idineas. Nick looked around and realized they ended up in a troubled neighborhood. Meanwhile, he didn't notice armed bandits getting out of two cars about to rob the gas station. The cashier reached for the alarm button and was shot. Nick rushed to his son, but was hit by a car. A criminal named Joe has to kill a person to become part of gang. He pulled out a machete and slashed Brandon's throat right in front of his father. The accomplices quickly forgot about Joe and left without him. Nick managed to remove his mask and see the face of the killer. Joe managed to escape, but was immediately hit by a car at full speed.
Where's Joe? He's a man now. He'll take the metro.
Brandon was still alive when his father brought him to the hospital, but he had lost a lot of blood. The rest of the family arrived here. The doctor said they were unable to save the boy. Nick easily identified his son's killer. It was 22-year-old Joe Darley. The preliminary hearing will take place the day after Brandon's funeral. Nick has to make a statement.
Put this animal in prison.
That's what the cops called him. Animal.
During the conversation with the prosecutor, Nick learned that the murderer faces a maximum of 5 years, and if they ask for more than 10, he might be released altogether. The thing is, Nick is the only witness. There is no murder weapon, and only Joe's own blood was found on his clothes. They only have Nick's word, since even the camera at the gas station isn't working. The man was further shocked by the fact that Brandon's murder was an initiation ritual. They killed his boy just like that. Nick looked at the thug and unexpectedly stated that he was taking back his words. He did not see who attacked his son. The case was closed. Joe Darley was released. Buddies picked him up right at the courthouse. The main one among them is a bald guy named Billy. Nick followed the criminals. They dropped off the new gang member at a brothel. In the evening, Nick returned home and started selecting a weapon for revenge. He found a rusty machete in the garage, but will perhaps prefer a similarly rusty knife. His wife and son came at the noise. Nick lied to them, saying he forgot something at the office. He would have to return there right away. In fact, Nick started to wait for Joe at the den.
Oh my God, what am I doing?
He was about to leave when the guy came outside to take out the trash. The man instantly lost control. He got out of the car and attacked the young killer. During the fight, Nick didn't even realize when the knife ended up in the guy's stomach. He died on the spot. Coming to his senses, he pulled the knife out of the victim's body and threw it into the river. At home, the family was going through tapes with family recordings. Nick tries not to show that he has done something terrible, and he has already cried bitterly in the bathroom. In the morning, Billy came to the authority. Bones, this fat arms dealer, took the meager tribute and threatened the bandit that he would gut him if he thought about deceiving him. Afterward, Billy arrived at the lab and learned from his gang that someone stabbed Joe last night. Nick is trying to return to his old life. Detective Wallace came to his work and delivered some good news. Joe Darley was killed yesterday.
Probably some kind of dispute within the gang.
Apparently, yes.
There is justice in the world.
The woman noticed Nick's bandaged hand. In the evening, Billy went off the rails. He accuses the other gang members of weakness. They need to find the bastard who did it and to get revenge on him. Unfortunately, that night, Nick was spotted by the sister of one of the bandits. Hearing that the guy was in a suit, Billy guessed that their visitor was manager Nick. The girl looked at the photo in the newspaper and confirmed that she saw exactly His hand is bleeding. The employees see that the boss is behaving strangely, and now Nick is scared of police sirens. Gang members begin to surround him on the street. Bodhi already drew a gun, but Nick knocked him out and ran away. As the other gang members started shooting right on the street, the man ran into an alley. He is being chased by half a dozen thugs. Nick understands it's the end for him. He knows that if they get to him now, he's finished. So he can't stop. The man was lucky to jump into the kitchen. He closed the door behind him and gave himself a little head start. But the crowd broke down the door and continued the chase. Eventually, Nick ran out to the parking lot and started jumping on all the cars so that the alarms would go off. Finding him amidst this noise would be much harder. An exhausted Nick ran up to the roof. One of the criminals did the same. Nick realized that the right decision would be to attack first. He distracted the bandit and knocked him to the ground. Several shots were fired. The struggle continued inside someone's car. At some point, the thug climbed on top and started choking Nick. The car slowly rolled toward the edge. Nick overpowered the bandit and wrapped the seatbelt around his neck. He managed to jump out of the car at the very last moment, while Billy's henchman was crushed by a pile of metal. Nick reached his car and finally managed to escape from the parking lot. O să pășești mașini na mesele de aici. Suddenly, his wife called and said she couldn't find Lucas anywhere. Nick guessed where he needed to look for him. The boy had gone to the gas station where Brandon was killed. Would it have been better if they had killed me? Yes or no? Lucas believes that his parents always loved his older talented brother more. Tau сказал shitishiki? Defestus. Billy still had Nick's wallet with pictures of his family. The scumbag knows how he will act next. Bodhi showed up at Nick's work. The security guard didn't manage to stop him. The bandit began to kick the employees and shout across the entire office. He handed the manager a package, after which the intruder was grabbed by 3 security guards and finally escorted out of the building. The faces of all his family members were crossed out in the photograph of family. On the back of the photo, Nick saw a phone number and immediately called. Billy answered the phone and informed the manager that his family would soon pass away. You approach my family, I'll rip out your guts, like I did with your body. You got that. He wasn't my friend, he was my brother. Nick panicked and immediately called his wife. The man asked Helen to stay with their son and wait for the police. After, Nick called Detective Wallace and reported the threats. When the man returned home, his family was already there. A police car was in the yard. A few minutes later, the detective arrived here. Wallace, she demanded that Nick tell the whole truth. Started a war with the wrong people? Is that it? Thought you could get away with killing a little bastard because you live far from them. The woman had long understood who killed Joe Darley. However, Nick refuses to admit it. The police will stay here overnight. But if it was indeed Nick who started the war, no one will help him now. Helen finds it hard to believe that her husband could do such a thing. What did he achieve with this? Retribution. Whatever the case, Helen will not abandon Nick and will always be his. To love. The cops are hanging out in their car, and Nick is sitting on the stairs with a bat, trying not to fall asleep. At some point, the man looked outside and saw that the policeman had been killed. The criminals had already broken into his house. Nick started fending them off with a bat, but a thug with a shotgun chased him and began destroying the house. Nick neutralized him. The second bandit accidentally shot the first one, and Nick struggled with him from the second floor, but resistance was already futile. His wife and son were captured by the remaining gang members. Billy fired 3 shots. One at Lucas, the second at Helen, and the last at Nick. The thugs cold-bloodedly executed his entire... They didn't do the main thing. A control shot. Nick woke up in the hospital and began lashing out at the doctors. They injected him with a sedative. When he regained consciousness again, he saw a detective in front of him. The woman demands that Nick stop at least now. He survived by a miracle. I killed them. I killed my family. Suddenly, Wallace reported that Lucas is still alive, though in critical condition. The man rushed to his son's room. The boy was shot in the head, but he still has a chance to recover. Nick was allowed to stay in the room next to his son. Even though Lucas is now unconscious, the father tries to convince the boy that he loves him no less than Brandon. It's just that he resembles his mother more than him. And now he is all Nick has left. I am very sorry that I couldn't protect you. The detective glanced through the window and saw that Nick was no longer in the room. He had escaped because he wasn't going to stop. At that very moment, Lucas came out of the coma. Nick returned. This is she there. Nick returned home, changed clothes and checked the number Billy called from. After that, the man withdrew all his savings from the bank and went to the bar. 4 Roses. This is where the killer called from. The bartender refused to say where Billy was hiding, even when Nick offered him a wad of cash. Well, then he would extract the necessary information. Finally, the Mexican gave Billy and provided the address where he might be hanging out. And one more thing. I need a weapon. Nick was directed to the boss, the fat man. To the boss. He showed the money and was kindly invited to explore the variety of the arsenal. Nick looked over the offered pistols and chose the ones he liked. In addition, he'll also take a shotgun. That's 3,000, damn it. Do you have 3,000? There are 5 here. This makes you a valued customer. Nick paid and headed towards the exit. You moron. Do you want to kill my son Billy? And are you the moron who killed Joe? Yes, I really want to kill him. Bones said that his son is a piece of shit. He has nothing to do with his son's affairs, and if someone wants revenge on him, Billy should pay. For Bones, a good customer is better than a lousy son. At home, Nick loaded the guns. He doesn't really know much about weapons, so he has to read the instructions. After, Nick shaved his head bald and treated his numerous wounds. Before heading to the slaughterhouse, the man put on his deceased son's jacket. He found the den where one of the bandits was using drugs. The first shotgun blast shattered the door. The second didn't allow the bald man to grab his gun. The junkie didn't resist for long and said that their hideout was in an abandoned mental hospital. Nick pointed a gun at him and forced him to call the boss. He said, "Did he sentence you to death? So what? This is what's up, scumbag." Bones finally found the brat to teach him about life and warn him about the danger. But the punk blew his dad's brains out. Meanwhile, Nick waited for the goon to get into the car and slammed into it at full speed. The car literally shattered to pieces. One more thug down. Nick took a double-barreled shotgun and entered the creepy abandoned building. His next victim had a leg shot off before being finished. His buddy got scared and tried to escape from the bald Avenger. However, Nick caught up with him and sent him flying with a shot in the chest. Reinforcements arrived. After the shootout in the laboratory, Nick took a convenient position on the stairs. Another thug was injured. Billy drove up to the building. 2 shooters are roaming the rooms looking for Nick. He ended up next to one of them behind a wall. They shot at the same time, but the Avenger was more accurate. Then Nick entered the chapel, where a tough fight ensued. As a result of the shootout, Bodhi lost his brains, and our hero got 4 extra holes in his body. Billy managed to shoot off fingers and blow apart guts. The gangster crouched nearby. "Talk. Look at yourself. You became one of us. Look at what I made you." Suddenly, Nick pulled out a hidden 357 Magnum. Billy realized that he was done for. Wounded, Nick went home to die. He was watching a video with his family when Detective Wallace entered the room. She informed him that Lucas had regained consciousness. The boy would recover, so perhaps it was too soon for Nick to die.